Yeah, I don't think people understand how big it is in Asia either. There's a lot of American fans that are just really, they're missing it.
Yeah.
It's like Asia's version of the UFC. It's gigantic, if not bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are insane. And they got some fucking killers over there.
Yes,
they got
do.
some legit killers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that guy Nasty Ukin who just knocked out Eddie Alvarez.
Yep. He trained a tiger.
Dude, that guy's legit.
Yeah.
This past weekend, ONE FC made their U.S. debut on Amazon Prime. I guess you could call this their U.S. debut. I mean, the card was still in Singapore, but they had it at like 4 a.m. Singapore time just to make sure that it was prime time in the United States, which kind of works perfectly. It still happens on Saturday out in Asia, but for the American audience, it's Friday night. I think PFL is also doing Friday night fights. Friday is an underrated day to have fights. I mean, there's no competition since everyone else is looking at Saturday. The accessibility of Amazon Prime takes away from what is, in my opinion, the biggest deterrent to potential MMA fans, or specifically potential UFC fans getting into the sport. There's so many barriers to entry as an MMA fan, especially if you watch the UFC. I mean, if you want to watch old fights, then you need the UFC Fight Pass. If you want to watch Fight Night cards, you need ESPN Plus. And of course, if you want to watch the pay-per-view, you have to pay for the pay-per-view. It's like $80 or something like that. ONE FC being on Amazon Prime probably makes it the most accessible MMA organization. Now on to the actual card itself. I was really excited to see this card, just to see what ONE Championship is all about. As a huge boxing and MMA fan, I've seen a lot of fights, but I've never watched an entire ONE FC card. They're really good about posting their highlights online, and they have insane collections of knockouts. Speaking of which, I saw an interview with Rich Franklin where he said that ONE FC has an insane finish rate. I'm pretty sure it's like 70% or something like that. He attributes the insane finish rate to the lack of weight cuts, which was something else that was pretty crazy to see. First fight in the card was a welterweight, quote-unquote welterweight bout, but one of the guys weighed in at 188. I think the other guy was 185. So all their weight classes are kind of pushed up one, which honestly is kind of weird. Though I can see that being confusing to a lot of people who are, just kind of just getting into MMA, maybe to watch some UFC cards, and they're not super sure about all the weight classes anyway. And then now you got some completely different, weight classes, same names but different weights. But I like the fact that they don't cut weight. ONE FC does hydration tests.
But there's some sort of a system where they stop you from weight cutting.
Yeah.
Like they check your hydration levels.
Hydration levels, yep.
It's the right way to do it. Yeah. He's correct. He's smart. It's the right way to do it. We should have done it a long time ago in the UFC.
One thing ONE FC definitely has down is their presentation. The presentation is insane. It reminds me a lot of like the old school Pride fights where the fighters come out and stand on the big platform and everyone just starts going crazy for them with the huge walkouts. The card started off with an absolute banger in their quote-unquote welterweight division of 185 with an insane knockout, which was kind of the perfect way to introduce ONE FC to the American audience. I mean, everybody loves a knockout, even the most casual of casual fans. They know what they're seeing when they see someone get knocked out. The rest of the card was pretty good. They had a couple of their bigger names. The one girl, Android 18, was on the card. She won by decision. Demetrius Johnson, who won his last flyweight title fight by a grounded knee, won this time by a grounded knee, which is another huge difference between ONE FC and the UFC, is that ONE FC operates with what they call the international MMA rules, which means that you can knee to a grounded opponent. I'm not so sure about the kicking. I don't think it's full-on Pride style. I'm not sure we're going to see any crazy, head stomps or anything like that. But overall, this is a really good card and a really good way to introduce the American audience to ONE FC. And again, it's awesome that they're doing Friday night fights. It gives fight fans, another day to be looking forward to see some high-level MMA. I'm really interested to see how far ONE FC goes, being so different than the UFC. When you look at Bellator, you look at PFL, they are in a lot of ways, I guess PFL is a little different because they have their playoff situation with the points and everything. But Bellator, in a lot of ways, is kind of just copying the UFC's format. It's a little different because they have the Grand Prix. ONE FC is taking it to a completely different place. ONE FC is doing mixed shows. It's the first time I've seen a mixed show. It's actually pretty awesome. I'm interested to see what the reception is going to be going forward. I think Friday Night Fights is a great idea, and then fights held on Amazon Prime is also an amazing idea. It makes it super accessible to the fans. But I would imagine that a lot of MMA fans over in Asia are probably a little more well-versed in the different martial arts, whereas the American audience is more familiar with just boxing. So I like that they're doing mixed shows with kickboxing and Muay Thai mixed in there. Maybe if you're a casual fan, you could watch a grappling match or a kickboxing match, and then you'll get more familiar with some of the techniques that you see in MMA. And maybe through grappling matches, the U.S. audience will get a little more familiar with the ground game and not be so quick to boo. For a long time, a lot of casual fans or non-fans referred to the sport as UFC rather than MMA. ONE FC is in the prime position to give the UFC actual competition. Now these days we're seeing a lot of potential free agents like Nate Diaz or even Francis Ngannou be very vocal with their problems with the UFC brass. If ONE FC can grab one of these big-name free agents, they could get a lot of their fans to come over too. I mean, it would be pretty insane to see a Nate Diaz, instead of retiring, go somewhere like ONE FC. Or Francis Ngannou, he could go to ONE FC, and I'm sure they'd have no problem letting him box. So ONE FC is looking like a potential power player, and it might force the UFC to get a little more creative and maybe even pay the fighters a little more, give fighters more of a reason to stay, especially if ONE FC starts trying to hand out huge offers. And with the hydration testing, I'm sure there's a lot of fighters that would like to make similar, comparable money, but not have to cut any weight, or not to fight guys that are cutting huge amounts of weights for huge size advantages. One thing I think is really cool is how what ONE FC does is that instead of Dana coming to the press conference after the fight and listing off everyone who won the bonus, they tell the fighters in cage, so you get to see the fighters' actual raw reaction to it. It's pretty awesome. Overall, I think ONE FC puts on a hell of a show, and I'm interested to see what other moves they make to try to gain some ground on the U.S. market share that the UFC has a stranglehold over. But only time will tell. Thanks for watching.